Hi, I'm Angie. Not really. I've realized that trying to look directly into a camera while speaking coherently is like trying to ride a bike with no hands for me, but since we're here, we might as well try. Anyway, when you think about the vastness of human knowledge, adults having to pretend like they know everything really doesn't make sense to me, and I do not want to partake in that. I want to learn new things. Unfortunately, I'm quite bad at learning things by myself, so I've created a situation in which not learning would be impossible. Here's how it works. I pick a thing I don't know much about. I try to find some hopefully good references, and then I do my best to cover it like the ignorant fool I am. And then I would like all of the knowledgeable people potentially watching this video to correct the ever-loving strudel out of me in the comments. But I would prefer if you used references. Fair is fair. One thing I do have expertise in is linguistics. So I won't talk about that unless people want me to, I guess. But that wouldn't be an ignorant fool territory then. That'd be an educated fool territory. And of course, I'm not that much of a fool to fool myself into thinking I understand a subject simply by reading a couple of books or articles about it and making a video on it. No, that takes hard work. Unless you're a genius, maybe, which I am not, as you're about to see. I'm simply exploring by reading the maps of reality that were created by experts. But as the saying goes, the map is not the territory anyway, so I am quite doomed. But I don't really mind. This channel is a place for curiosity more than anything else. Today I want to learn more about money, specifically what it is and where it comes from. Why money, you ask? Well, I know embarrassingly little about economics. It's bad. Plus, money is something of everyday importance. My main references for this video are the following. First, we have Can't We Just Print More Money by Patel and Jack Meaning, which I find out about, yes, in the video called I Am Trying to Be Less Stupid, which I will link in the description. This book seemed like a good place to start because it was written specifically for beginners. Plus, it came out in 2022, so relatively up to date. The one thing to keep in mind though is that the authors of the book work for the Bank of England, so their perspective on economics is surely shaped by that fact. But they did seem to have to take a critical stance, which is always nice to see. And you cannot say they're not experts. Also, can I just say that Can't We Just Print More Money just begs to be read in the voice of the Stanley Parable narrator?
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Anyway, my second main reference are Encyclopedia Britannica's entries on money, currency, central banks, cryptocurrency, and exchange rates, because Encyclopedia seemed like a logical place to look, and the entries keep getting updated by the editors, so it's up to date. My third main reference, and the final one, is Donut Economics by Kate Raworth, and it was actually one of the references in Can't We Just Print More Money. I chose it because it is a critique of traditional economics, and it offers some new perspectives, concepts, and goals. All of these will be listed in the description along with some additional references. Let me give you a quick rundown of the main sections of this video. So first we have examples of things that have been used as money around the world at some point in time. Then we have the fundamental functions of money. We have the difference between commodity money and fiat money, plus a yap session about the gold standard, because I do have personal beef with the gold standard. Then we have types of money in modern economies and the current money creation system. And last but not least, we have Kate Raworth's critique of the current money creation system. So, to start us off, here are some things that have been used as money around the world at some point in time. We have money cowries, which is a type of seashell that was historically widely used in many Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean countries. The Latin name is Monetaria moneta, which is like being named money son. We have cocoa beans, which were used by the Aztecs. We have squirrel pelts, which were used in medieval Russia. And fun fact that their ears, claws, and snouts were used as change. We have bricks of tea, which were used in China until the Second World War. We have cigarettes, which were used in post-Second World War Germany. We have mackerel, which was used in American prisons in the early 2000s. And last but not least, we have Parmesan cheese, which, according to Patel and Meaning, page 162, could be used as a deposit for a loan in some parts of Italy until 2009. No, I get it. What a lovely ensemble of things. One of the more interesting forms of money were the Rai Stones of Yap, a Pacific island. These were huge stones that were really difficult to obtain, and many people died doing so actually. So their system evolved from you need to have the stones physically present to pay for something to you just need to have proof that you own them. That was true even for the stones that got lost, that, for example, fell into the sea on the way back home. If it was recorded that you owned them, you could pay with them. This might begin to remind you of how money as we know it works. And fun fact, according to this BBC article called "The Tiny Island with Human-Sized Money," the stones are still used today, but in specific contexts, usually related to customs. Then there were less exciting things like gold and other precious metals. The value of precious metals was first measured by weight, but later they got stamped to make their value known on site, which is way more convenient, by the way, and that's how we got coins. The first standardized coins were coined in the ancient Lydia around 700 BCE. They were bean-shaped with a primitive punch mark, and they were made of electrum, which is apparently a natural mix of gold and silver. The first paper money, just to compare, appeared more than a millennium later in China. Fun fact, people being people, they quickly started to shave off tiny pieces of coins from the edges, or they would put coins in a bag and shake them to knock off the dust, so the coins would weigh less for the same value. This problem was solved in the late 17th century when people started using machines to make coins. These milled coins have these non-smooth edges, so any damage is very visible on them. Of course, when paper money became a thing, people started faking it immediately. So special tests were developed to tell the fake ones apart from the real ones. So what do all of these examples of money actually have in common? According to the father of economics from the 18th century Scotland, Adam Smith, there are three fundamental functions of money. Anything that aspires to become money has to be able to fulfill all three of them. And we all kind of know them already without having to think about them, but it might be good to bring them into consciousness anyway. First, money needs to be a medium of exchange. Second, a store of value. And third, a unit of account. Money being a medium of exchange, means that you can exchange it for something else, and the person you give the money to doesn't want to consume it in itself, like munch on it or something. They want to trade it for something else too. Secondly, the store of value function means that money must be able to carry its value into the future. So, for example, using fruits is a bad idea because they would rot quickly, but using dried fruits is a slightly better idea. Finally, the unit of account function means the account. Finally, the unit of account function means that the prices of all the things in the economy can be written down in terms of money. This is extremely convenient because otherwise you would have to know the price of everything in terms of every other thing. How many bananas for one Labubu? Probably a lot. That's what a barter economy would look like. So what if something goes wrong with either of these functions? For example, when inflation rates skyrocket, that also means that the prices skyrocket and the store of value function kind of falls apart because the value of money keeps decreasing and it becomes merely a piece of paper. Picture having $100 but not being able to buy ice cream with them. And so in countries with high inflation, prices are often quoted in different, more stable currencies. At the end of the day, and this is probably the most important line in this video, money only works because humans believe it works. It's a social construct, basically. People accept money because they know that others will too. When that trust is shattered, the system falls apart. But the systems of money can actually be more or less substantial, which brings us to the difference between commodity money and fiat money. Commodity money or representative money is a system in which money represents a claim on an underlying commodity thingy. This basically means that you can go to a bank and say, "Hello, good sir, I have this much cash. Please give me the equivalent in insert the underlying commodity here." This underlying commodity can be anything. In South America, it was cocoa beans at some point, and the most famous one was gold. And I will come back to that. Fiat money, on the other hand, is a system without such backup. Fiat means let it be done in Latin, so something is money simply because it has been declared so. It doesn't represent a claim on an underlying commodity, and as I understand it, we mostly use fiat money today. Which brings us back in time to the gold standard, a system in which you could convert your currency into gold at a fixed price. You see, the title of my first reference was "Can't we just print more money?" And upon reading it, my brain went into a know-it-all but not really mode and said, of course we cannot print more money, the gold standard is a thing. It's not. It's not a thing anymore. Anyway, the gold standard was first established in the UK. And by the end of the 19th century, many countries fixed their exchange rates to gold. That is, everybody knew exactly how much an ounce of gold cost in their own currencies, and it was set. They were all also required to have backup in gold. And because they needed to have that backup, it limited how much new money they could create. So they could create new money. It was just strictly tied to the amount of gold. If they wanted to make more money, they'd have to get more gold. Since most countries were on board with the gold standard, that basically meant that there was a single world money called by different names in different countries, because every currency could be expressed as this much gold or that much gold. The actual exchange rate between currencies could vary, but only by an amount that corresponded to the cost of shipping gold. So imagine we are in the gold standard era. We have Americans whose currency is the US dollar. We have the Swiss people whose currency is the Swiss franc. And if the value of the Swiss franc increases a lot, so you need way more American dollars for 1 Swiss franc, a poor American who wants to buy something from Switzerland can just be like, wait a second, it's literally cheaper for me to convert my US dollars into gold, ship that gold to Switzerland, and then let them convert it into Swiss francs. These limits in exchange rate deviation were called gold points. I quite like that name, it's cute. Anyway, after the Second World War, when the USA became a big shot, the gold standard system was transformed into a new system in which only the US dollar could be converted to gold at a fixed rate. 1 ounce of gold cost exactly $35, and everyone else just needed to fix the exchange rates of their own currencies to the US dollar. And so the US dollar effectively became the new backup. But as the United States were not free to determine its own exchange rate, and everyone else was, this was pretty awkward for them. This is actually a really complex topic because whether a country has a fixed exchange rate, which depends on an agreed upon standard, or a floating exchange rate, which changes with the whims of the market, impacts all of the other aspects of its economy. And both systems have their pros and cons. I will probably make a video about it. The point is, this newer version of the gold standard system was demolished in 1971 by the US President Richard Nixon. To conclude, even though the gold standard system provided stability because you couldn't just randomly increase the amount of money in the economy without gold backing it up, it had its flaws. Apparently, the changes in supply and demand of gold, that is, how much gold there is and how much people want it, would affect its price. That can be controlled by buying and selling gold crazy style to keep your gold reserves stable, but it was not very successful, I guess. Also, people want to use gold for other things, like computer chips or jewelry, which makes hoarding it a problem. But the other big problem of the gold standard system, at least according to Patel and Meaning, was that it was not flexible enough. Let me try to explain this to myself. In modern economies, there's nothing backing up the worth of a banknote, which sounds scary because if the money is overissued, it might become worthless. But turns out this has its benefits. Patel and Meaning say that this way you can more freely change the supply of money in the economy as the demand fluctuates, which is supposed to keep the prices more stable. Which is weird because wasn't the gold standard supposed to keep them stable? Because the prices go up if there is more money in the economy? Let's unpack this. Does this mean that if an economy is growing, there is a demand for more money because people want to invest and spend more? And this system in which money can be created more easily enables that? Enables the growth? Is that it? And most of economists really like growth, as long as it's stable. Spoiler alert, the author of Donut Economics, Kate Raworth, does not fall catch with growth at all. She thinks we're going to destroy the earth and ourselves by chasing it. She's all for not crossing the planetary boundaries. Now let's talk about the creation of money in modern economies, as it was different in the past, of course. First, we need to introduce the 3 main characters of modern economies. We have the holders of money, or the public, which consists of individual people, businesses, and governmental units. Then we have commercial banks, which borrow from the public, mainly by taking deposits, and they loan money to the other members of the public. And then we have central banks, which control the supply of money in the economy. They serve as the bank for the government and the commercial banks. And they control a bunch of other things, like the interest rates of commercial banks. If you don't know what an interest rate is, bless you. It's basically how commercial banks make money off your debt. It's the price you pay for using their credit services. So, for example, if a commercial bank gives you a loan to buy a car, you cannot pay them back the exact amount. There is a certain percentage of the original sum of money that gets added onto your debt. And what percentage exactly? That's for your central bank to determine. Now that we introduced the three main characters, we can finally introduce the three general types of money in modern economies according to Patel and meaning. The first type are banknotes, basically paper money. They are made by central banks and they can be held by anyone, any individual or business or commercial bank. If I got it right, paper money also used to be made by governments or private banks, but now only the central banks have that power. And banknotes do represent a claim on the state's resources, even if it's not gold, just other banknotes. I suppose that this means that if you have a 20 euro banknote, you gotta be able to exchange it for two 10 euro banknotes, and the state is responsible for keeping that promise. Also, coins are kind of similar to banknotes, so the authors didn't want to separate them into their own category, but they are made by national mints, not by central banks. And coins plus banknotes equals currency. The second type of money in modern economies are reserves or narrow money, and they are held by commercial banks. Just as you have your account with your commercial bank, commercial banks have their accounts with the local central bank. So that kind of money is a claim directly on central banks. The third and final type of money in modern economies is also the most common one, and we all depend on it greatly. It's deposits we have in our bank accounts. And they are not a claim on the state or on the central bank. They are an IOU agreement to a private company, a commercial bank. So the banknote in your wallet and the numbers in your bank account are completely different. I'm going to quote the book here for dramatic effect. So Patel and meaning, page 169. To create money, they, the commercial banks, don't need to print it. They can simply write it down on a spreadsheet somewhere. So yeah, I did not know that. And how can they do this, you ask? Well, according to the old loanable funds model, commercial banks take money from savers and loan that same money to borrowers. Banks don't need savers' money to make a loan to you. They can simply add money to your account out of thin air because they have an IOU from you. You owe them. And here's a fun twist. When you return that out of thin air money back to the bank, you destroy it. Now there's less money in the system. But commercial banks cannot just do this without limit, because the central banks and the government won't let them. So they only loan money to people who they think will pay them back in a way that is profitable for the bank. So if commercial banks didn't make loans, they wouldn't create new money, but they do. They cannot print new money though, because only the central banks can create banknotes. They need to have some on them though, in case people want to take them. If everyone went to collect all of their money from the commercial banks in cash form, the banking system would collapse because they do not have it. Kate Raworth, the author of Donut Economics, provides a critique of the modern money creation system. Raworth dislikes the fact that most of the money is created by commercial banks because their creative loans are mostly being channeled into buying houses, land, stocks, and shares, instead of investing into small businesses, which bring variety and productive energy into the economy. The current system mostly pushes up the prices of existing assets, which can get out of control, like the housing market. If I Google house price to income ratio, the first thing that comes up is this page called Long-Term Trends. And it says that in the mid-1970s, the average cost of a house in the United States was less than 4 times the yearly household income. In 2025, it was more than 7 times the yearly household income. Raworth proposes several changes to the current system. She feels like it would be smart to separate the role of providing money from the role of providing credit. She would do that by giving central banks complete power over money creation, not just the creation of banknotes. The central banks would then give money to commercial banks who would make loans, but they would also be required to hold 100% of the reserves for the loans they make, instead of just a certain percentage. So every loan will be completely backed. No banking system crash is possible. This sounds interesting, but it seems quite difficult to do because it requires some heavy restructuring. She proposes that the states change their monetary policy measures during recessions, which are periods of lower productivity in the economy and of decline in employment, incomes, and spending. States usually have 2 strategies for dealing with recessions. 1. Central banks tell commercial banks to cut the interest rates on their loans to make paying debt easier. And 2. Central banks buy government bond or government debt from commercial banks with freshly made new money, which is a type of strategy called quantitative easing. And they do so in hope that commercial banks will use this new money to invest into something productive. But commercial banks mostly don't do this. As we've seen earlier, they are more likely to invest into already existing assets because they get panicky to save themselves, of course. So instead of doing all that, what if central banks dealt with recessions by creating this brand new money that had a specific purpose of dealing with debts and giving it to every household in need? That's called People's QE. There is also something called Green QE, which refers to central banks channeling this fresh new money into supporting green projects. Rather than favoring banks and asset owners, these monetary policy measures would be more distributive. They would help more people quicker. Lastly, Raworth thinks that different types of money should coexist instead of us having just one national currency. Here's an example of when this actually worked out quite well. In 2013, a complementary currency was launched in a slum district of the Kenyan city Mombasa, and this district happens to be named Bangladesh. Actually, it's right here. This currency was called Bangla Pesa, and the Kenyan government's first instinct was to arrest its founder, Will Ruddick, because they were afraid that he wanted to overthrow the official Kenyan shilling. But they actually started to support the project once they realized that its goal wasn't competitive, it was complementary. So Bangla Pesa was used by poor traders. Every new user had to be endorsed by 4 others before being given Bangla Pesa. and they had to commit to backing it up with their own goods and services. So there's a certain community morality aspect to it. And it worked really well because the members could use Kenyan shillings to pay for one type of expense like electricity, and they could use Bangla Pesa to pay for other types of expenses like food and services. It basically served like a buffer in hard times. Another example that Raworth mentions is Zeitvorsorge, which is a type of a time credit. It is used in St. Gallen in Switzerland, but only by people older than 60. They help the other elderly residents with their daily tasks, and by doing so, they can earn up to 750 time credits. And then they can use those to purchase services from other elderly citizens. My friend actually pointed me to a website called timebanks.org, which encourages other communities to form their own time banks. So it's not just a Switzerland thing. Time banks are based on the principle that everyone's work is valued equally, no matter what service they provide, be it gardening, cooking, cleaning, babysitting, or even keeping somebody company. 1 hour of work equals 1 time credit. As we've seen in the St. Gallen example, the credits you earn can be used to purchase services from your other community members. The idea here is that everyone has something of value to offer. Besides these money creation ideas, Kate Raworth has so many other ideas for better economics in her book, but I cannot put them all in this video, otherwise it will be 2 hours long. I will only mention that she thinks that the state should have a bigger role in the economy for economies like America's. She wants it to invest into actually useful and beneficial projects. And she thinks that something called the commons should make a big comeback. These are public properties that everyone can use responsibly. They can be physical, like fields, for example, but the internet has a bunch of them, like open source programs or the freaking Wikipedia. And my original plan was to have a whole section about cryptocurrencies here, even though they don't really meet Adam Smith's criteria for money. I will have to cover them separately, but here I will just say that the most prominent features of cryptocurrencies are that they are digital, they are not overseen by a central authority like a government or a bank, and that they are network-based. So every crypto transaction is visible to every crypto user of that network, of course, and all of the transactions have to be verified collectively. Spoilers though. So if I have learned anything from this, it's that money only works because we believe that it works, like that Kung Fu Panda quote, I guess. 2, that the gold standard is not a thing anymore. 3, that central banks print more money. 4, that commercial banks just make up money on the spot when they loan it to you. And 5, that money can change if people accept it and new types of money can emerge. To further illustrate this last point, because the use of cash has declined enormously in the last 10 years, especially with COVID, the Bank of England, which is a central bank, is looking into making a new digital currency system, which would be a claim on the state, like banknotes are. So it would be safer than the usual digital currency systems, which are not a claim on the state. But it would maybe even pay interest, which banknotes don't do. When you keep your money with a commercial bank, you get that money plus a little something extra as thanks for choosing them specifically, which is one of the reasons why it's better to keep your money in a bank instead of just storing it somewhere in your house. So now this might be possible to do with a central bank. And since Patel and Meaning provided us this info in 2022, did the Bank of England actually do it? So I think it's still in the research phase. I'm not seeing anything substantial. But according to our beloved Internet Knowledge Common Wikipedia, as of 2024, the Bahamas, Jamaica, and Nigeria have launched their own central bank digital currency systems, and 134 countries are researching their own versions. Well, thank you for watching. If I got any of this wrong, please do tell me. I'm dying to know. And if you've been on an internet binge today, please remember to do something real too. Be it listening to the sound of your breath, hanging out with the people you love, or making a bad drawing of a pineapple. Shoot!